Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Nine Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So, I came across this young man's video where he was talking about how Europeans have always stolen everything. I don't think this is something new. I mean, or maybe it's new to some people, but we all already know that they really have stolen a whole lot from other people. And I am also going to talk about how they stole from my own people, right? Now, where I come from, there is this culture called Benin. Benin are known for their rich culture, and sincerely speaking, and Yoruba too. Yoruba too are also very rich in culture and all that. Now, I won't lie to you, these people stole so many artifacts from Nigeria. Let me say from Nigeria. And they've been calling them since how many years to return back all the artifacts they stole. Sincerely speaking, most of the things they stole from Nigeria are worth millions of dollars. And why are they not returning them? Now he talked about how they have also manufactured uh they have made so many advanced diseases and the rest of it. And this is something that you and I know the truth, right? Because I also remember how they experimented Tuskegee on people that look like me without even telling them the real truth, telling them it is just going to last for how many days or how many weeks, and without telling them repercussions of what they did or what they were doing. You know what? Let's
Europeans have always stolen everything. They've stolen land, of course, but that was just the opening act. Europeans have stolen everything: material, labor, lifeways, language, even the ability to imagine a future outside of their theft. They stole Turtle Island with treaties they never honored, stole Africa with borders they never lived in, stole Australia by calling it empty, stole Palestine by funding a settler state, and each time they renamed the theft as discovery. They didn't just take territory, they fabricated sovereignty out of violence. They built nations on unmarked graves, then built museums to frame it as progress. Chattel slavery wasn't just forced work, it was the systemic extraction of time, body, memory, and reproductive life. The transatlantic slave trade turned people into credit, generations into capital, and when formal slavery ended, they simply renamed it: indenture, plantation debt, prison labor, minimum wage. They don't pay, they extract. Every developed European economy sits atop the plunder of others. Belgium's wealth equals Congo's mutilated children. Britain's empire equals Bengal's famines. India's looted GDP. France's monuments equal Haitian reparation payments. Spain's gold equals indigenous blood across Abya Yala. They didn't build wealth, they looted it. Then they called it industrialization. They took African deities and renamed them demons, took Arab numbers and called them Western math, took Eastern philosophy and sold it as mindfulness, took black music and charted it with white faces. They turned Yoruba into voodoo, turned indigenous prophecy into apocalypse fiction, took the drum, the braid, the spice, the chant, then banned it, then sold it back through Apple commercials and Coachella fashion lines. Europeans don't create, they curate what they've already stolen. Residential schools, forced adoptions, sterilization clinics, boarding schools, welfare raids. They stole native children, African children, Maori children, Aboriginal children, then documented it in church archives, not courts. And when colonized women resisted, they sterilized them, without consent, without anesthesia, sometimes as policy, sometimes as casual genocide. European time is not neutral, it's stolen. They imposed clocks over cycles, calendars over ceremonies, and 40-hour work weeks over subsistence and kinship. They stole the future by criminalizing rest. They stole the past by rewriting every archive. They even stole the present by flooding the world with distractions while the planet burns. Their time is linear, extractive, and detached from responsibility. It is the schedule of empire. They stole artifacts. They stole bodies. They stole the very dead. Museums across Europe house over 1.5 million stolen cultural artifacts and refuses to return them. British, German, and French museums hold African skulls like trophies, Papuan ancestral bones like anthropology props, indigenous ceremonial pieces as curiosities, while demanding proof of ownership from those they stole from, because Europeans believe possession is 9/10 of humanity. They co-opt freedom. They steal justice. They quote MLK while funding occupation. They chant rights while arming repression. They stole abolition from the enslaved, stole feminism from indigenous matriarchs, stole queer liberation from trans black organizers, then whitewashed every movement they didn't create but couldn't stop. Europeans even steal oppression vocab to dodge accountability. They clear-cut the forests, poisoned the rivers, overfished the oceans, ignited climate collapse. Now they build rockets to Mars, domes on lunar dust, terraforming projects funded by billionaires who couldn't even clean a city block. They stole the Earth, and now they want to steal distance from the wreckage. This is not a series of accidents. This is the core of European identity. Theft as cosmology, extraction as culture, ownership as theology. Europeans have always stolen everything because they cannot exist without convincing the world that what is theirs was always up for grabs. They didn't just take gold. They took meaning. They took time. They took worlds. And they call that history. Cope. Okay guys, no more reintroductions, alright? There's no time. Just go to the bio and get out of here ASAP. White people have always had the most advanced diseases of all time, and history proves it. No one innovates illness like white people. While other societies managed parasites, injuries, or tropical fevers with traditional medicine, fasting, herbalism, and kin-based care, white societies were out here evolving disease into an art form, turning dysfunction into identity, and treating sickness like a feature, not a bug. This isn't just about being sick. This is about developing the most complicated, advanced, uniquely self-inflicted disorders on Earth, and then acting surprised when the treatments didn't work. Medieval Europe is where they turned God into a doctor, and disease into class aesthetics. Plague, of course. Leprosy, standard. Chronic skin ulcers from poor hygiene. Parasites from never washing linen. Gout as the official rich man's flex. But they went further. They didn't just get sick, they made it philosophical. Upper-class white men turned constant illness into proof of spiritual sensitivity. Delicate constitution became a mark of nobility. That's why Charlie Kirk gets away with it today. And by the 1400s, they had so many mysterious conditions that entire cities became centers of pilgrimage for psychosomatic malaise. Compare that to societies in Africa, Asia, and the Americas, where they linked disease to balance, food, season, and spirit, but never a personality trait. Europe, sick was style. The Enlightenment and Empire, the golden age of complicated self-inflicted disease. This was the era where white people took simple disorders and turned them into epic, multi-organ crises. Mercury poisoning from medicine, lead poisoning from plumbing and face powder, arsenic-induced anemia from literal fashion, tuberculosis as a lifestyle choice, syphilis so untreated and widespread, they blamed it on foreigners, prostitutes, and witches. They weren't dying from war. They were dying from preservatives, textiles, and their own house paint. And when they colonized the world, they brought smallpox blankets, typhoid-infested water, rats, STDs, coughs with no cure, and invasive bacteria from their unwashed trench coats. They weren't hardy. They were walking labs for airborne disease. The Victorian era is where disease became gendered, bottled, and sold. By the 1800s, the white world had industrialized disease. They didn't just get sick, they created entire industries to market, sell, and categorize it. Women were diagnosed with hysteria, wandering womb, and nervous fatigue, aka nutrient deficiency, depression, and sexual repression. Men got melancholia, neurasthenia, and tobacco-induced heart murmurs. Medical conditions included milk leg, a postpartum blood clot named by men who couldn't describe anatomy, railway spine, early whiplash from Victorian train rides, chlorosis, iron deficiency that was aestheticized as green sickness, and they treated all of it with laudanum or opium, cocaine wine, bleeding, and vibrators controlled by foot pedals. The diseases were advanced. The treatments were insane. The patients were miserable, but composed. And today, the tradition continues. White societies are still the epicenter of complex, chronic disease clusters, such as autoimmune disorders, neuroinflammatory symptoms, psychosomatic pain, hormonal imbalance linked to diet and chemical exposure, and brand name psychiatric conditions treated with alphabet soup prescriptions. They don't just get sick, they require documentation, diagnosis, and 3 specialists. And it's always untraceable. Gut biome collapse, allergies to air, adrenal fatigue from capitalism, TikTok PTSD from something their great-grandfather did. Every white illness is a medical thesis with no resolution. White people have always had the most advanced diseases. They industrialized dysfunction. They made illness fashionable, then weaponized it across continents. They built pharmaceutical empires around problems they caused. They invented diagnosis for their own system, breaking under the weight of their own lifestyle. So the next time someone says they're managing 6 overlapping conditions and trying a new supplement protocol, ask them this. If you invented modern medicine, why is your body still reacting like a 14th century alchemist just kissed you on the mouth? Go. Europeans have always erased science. They didn't bring science to the world. They brought standardization by suppression. A global system where science only counted if Europe said it did, because what couldn't be claimed, renamed, or patented was marked as myth, was banned, or burned. They didn't discover the stars. They renamed them. Babylonian astronomers active by 1800 BCE recorded planetary movements on cuneiform tablets. These exact observations formed the basis for Greek astronomy. Hipparchus and Ptolemy used Babylonian eclipse data, but Europe teaches their names as original scientists. The Maya tracked Venus's synodic cycle, or 584-day pattern, to astonishing precision using the Dresden Codex, which was nearly destroyed by Diego de Landa in 1562. Their system was more accurate than the Gregorian calendar that Europe introduced in 1582. Dogon people of Mali described Sirius B as a dim, dense companion star, before it was telescopically confirmed by Western astronomers in 1862. French anthropologists dismissed their claim until forced to concede its accuracy 100 years later. Chinese astronomers cataloged sunspots, supernovas, and comets for centuries. In 1054 CE, Crab Nebula event was described in Chinese and Islamic sources, completely ignored in European records until rediscovered by telescope. Europe didn't explore the sky. They overlaid it with Latin and then pretended they were there first. They didn't invent numbers. They stole algorithms. The number 0 first appears in Indian texts as early as 628 CE in Brahmagupta's Brahmahas Vudasiddhanta. 0 enters Europe 500 years later via Arabic math texts, where it's labeled new. Algebra derives from Muhammad ibn Musa al-Wahimi's 9th century text, Kitab al-Jar, which introduced balancing equations and solutions to quadratics. His name was Latinized to algorithmy, the origin of the word algorithm, but his authorship is rarely acknowledged in textbooks. Pascal's triangle, used in China and Iran centuries earlier. especially in the 13th century work of Erasure, and especially Persian polymath al-Kharaji. The Yoruba binary divination system, Ifa, maps directly onto binary logic. No Western scientist recognized this until post-1960s anthropology. They didn't cure the world. They criminalized the healers. Ayurvedic surgery was already treating cataracts and conducting C-sections in 600 BCE. The British outlawed Ayurvedic practices in 1833, replacing it with European hospital medicine despite poorer rural outcomes. Ancient Egyptian surgical texts like the Edwin Smith Papyrus around 1600 BCE include antiseptics, splints, and diagnoses. Europeans rediscovered these methods thousands of years later and claimed novelty. African inoculation against smallpox was documented in 1716 when Onesimus, an enslaved African person in Boston, described the technique. Europe refused to accept the invention until Edward Jenner rebranded it in 1796 and claimed invention. Mesoamerican pharmacology included pain relief from salicylic acid from willow bark, the same compound in aspirin. Spanish missionaries banned traditional healers and destroyed codices, like the Libellus de Medicinalibus in Dorum Erbis. They didn't advance medicine. They colonized the patient and erased the protocol. They didn't innovate. They reverse engineered. Benin City, Nigeria, had streetlights, underground drainage, and engineered earthwork in the 1400s. British invaders in 1897 looted the city and destroyed the archives, then called it primitive. Great Zimbabwe, built between the 11th and 15th centuries, features mortarless stonework over 11 meters high. European archaeologists in the 19th century refused to believe that Africans built it and attribute it to Phoenicians instead. Peru's Capac Neon, or the Inca Road, over 25,000 miles of roadways with suspension bridges and mountain tunnels, predates Roman concrete. Spanish colonizers used it to move armies, then let it decay. Polynesian double-hulled canoes traveled across thousands of miles using star maps, ocean swell, and birds. Captain Cook pretended this knowledge didn't exist, even as he relied on local navigators. Europe didn't invent the future. They stole the blueprints, torched the libraries, and renamed the authors. They didn't predict nature. They ignored balance. Aboriginal firestick farming used controlled burns to prevent megafires and regenerate ecosystems. Europeans banned the practice, calling it wasteful, until recent science confirmed its precision. Islamic water engineering developed qanats, underground aqueducts that sustainably irrigated dry land. European colonial projects replaced them with extractive pump systems that depleted water tables. Southeast Asian rice terracing systems incorporated seasonal water flow, fish breeding, and ecosystem balance. Colonial cash cropping destroyed those systems in favor of plantation monoculture. African metallurgy, including preheated blast furnaces in Tanzania's Pe0ple around 1st century CE, produced carbon steel 1,000 years before Europe reached that level. Europe's science was never about balance. It was about control, not symbiosis, but subjugation. What they couldn't patent, they burned. The myth of European scientific genius was not built on discovery, but on erasure, renaming, and repackaging. They didn't build science. They built a monopoly, a system where only what passes through their languages, labs, and legal codes counts as knowledge. Everything else erased, illegal, mythologized, or looted for parts. Cope.
Cope. So I am going to say this. The truth is that this man is really holding them on their bones. I don't know how to explain it, but you heard me right. He is holding them so hard that okay, now let me give you an example. You know when a fly perched on this is like an idiom or a proverb, but let's get it. When a fly perched on someone's balls, right? How do you kill the fly without hurting yourself? How do you kill the fly without hurting yourself? So you have to either take one, look for a way to let the fly run away, because trying to kill the fly will hurt your balls so bad. This guy is holding them so bad. So let me say this. The truth is that, do you know how many artifacts, how many things they stole from Nigeria? At least this one will not get me in trouble when I talk about Nigeria, right? They stole so many things, artifacts, gold, and all that. And those things they stole are worth millions of dollars. When you come to Nigeria, there is what they call Benin. Benin, their culture is very unique. The same as Yoruba, they all have different unique cultures. And they are also known with, you will see different artifacts. They are just good at it. I mean, I think that is just, they have it in, not in abundance, but there are some that when you are able to capture, or when you are able to get, you know that it is something that is worth a lot. And there are some you can only see in Oba's house. Oba means the king, right? So majority of them were all stolen. If you check your Google will tell you all the people, like some, they've been telling them, bring back what you stole from us, bring it back. You stole a whole lot from us, not just only Nigeria. You check other countries, they stole a whole lot from them, and they are keeping it. Why are they keeping it? That's why sometimes when you go to some museum, you are seeing some African cultures being displayed. How did they get it? How did they get it? The same as their kingdom. What is the United Kingdom? Those crown, queen, and prince, and all that, they are holding a whole lot. They have a whole lot. And other countries. So you all better start returning all those things you all stole. And are we going to talk about the diseases they manufactured and all that? Because I can still remember the one they did to people that look like me, the Tuskegee experiment that they did. That they said it was going to last how long? That they did not even tell me why, that it was something like that. And then it took how many years? How long did it take to stop again? So they've been manufacturing some certain kind of thing. When they get so bored and they feel like, man, it's time for us to create another one, they will create one and bring it out. And the worst part is that in the end, they will ship some to where I come from. You know where I come from? Yes. They bring them through missionaries. That's why I detest them. You see all those people that say that they are missionaries or they give immunization and all. Run! If you're African and you are watching my channel, run! If the immunization is not coming from your hospital, that you know that it is not connected to any thing. But if you got to do it all, run for your beautiful life. You heard me right. Oh my God. Cool. Bye for now.